Do it.
All right. Welcome, everybody. We have a wonderful speaker today, and her name is Tressa. Heath? Am I saying that correctly?
Heath.
Heath. I was going to say Heath at first, and I was like, is it Heath? Okay, Heath. And she is a CPA, QuickBooks Pro Advisor, wife, and mother of 3. And she is in Lafayette, Indiana. And she's a native of Lafayette, and she attended Indiana University, Purdue University in Indianapolis. And she's very heavily involved in her community. And she will pretty much attend as many, if not all, of the Purdue football and basketball games. And she's involved in many of the nonprofits, including Matrix Pregnancy Resource Center, Big Brothers Big Sisters, and Junior Achievement. And your upcoming 10-year anniversary with your business, is that correct?
Yeah, December will be 10 years, but we just finished our 10th tax season.
Wow, that's good. That's
Hopefully
incredible.
that's the hardest. It
Yeah.
was awful, but
That was a lot, having your own business for 10 years. I don't think any of us have hit a 10-year mark. I know
Yeah.
Amy Payne's been a while, but not 10 years. And she's not on here today, but she attends a lot. And she is also an author. This is her book. I ended up getting it, and it'll be backwards on here, but it's Accounting, the super duper fun part of starting a business. I read it. It's good. I would say I wish I knew about it when I started my business. I think it's really, really good for someone who is just starting. And I went through it and I'm like, oh, good, I did that. Oh, good, I did that. And I
Right.
really did do a lot of these things, but guess what? It's not because I was smart. It's because I asked a lot of other entrepreneurs and they gave me good advice. But if you don't have people to tell you these things, she is spot on, this book, and it's very thin, so it gives you some very good basics. So if
Agreed.
if you're new in your business or someone starting a business, a good book that I highly recommend. Anything else that I'm forgetting? If not, you'll be able to. So welcome, Tressa. We appreciate you joining us.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I usually structure things like this pretty loose. I don't have any sort of bullet pointed out speech to give you or anything. So, if stuff pops up and we need to take a different tangent, speak up, go right ahead. Yeah, so I mean, I'm in Lafayette. Kara, I looked you up. You said you're in Lafayette. So we have a couple mutual friends.
Yeah. I was at the
Anyone
Matrix
else?
event Friday night. Were you at the Matrix event Friday night?
Jessica? What's that?
I'm in Lafayette.
Sorry, I was at the Matrix event Friday night. Were you there, Tressa?
No, I wasn't. The kids are 8, 9, and 8, 10, and 11. So baseball is right now. So
That's fine. They said you're part of Matrix. That's great.
yeah.
And then I reside in Lafayette also.
Yeah, awesome. Hi. Yeah, okay. So I just thought I'd start with some just kind of general best practice, a little bit from the book. But again, if anything comes up, let me know. So one thing, approaches to business personalities that I see, those that are super penny pinching DIY to death their business, and those that see the time and place to reach out, to have someone else in their corner, to have, in the book, I call it their professional posse. They're with you and hired, and whether you're actively paying them or not for whatever services, you've got people in tow that you're relying on. You are not DIYing everything to death. There is certainly a time and place for it. And that's, I think, where having those professionals in tow that you listen to, that can help you figure out, all right, what for your personality, for your business, how does any do-it-yourself accounting, whatever, fit in versus what do you need to piece out, and somebody helping you with those things. So those two different personalities or just approaches to business are really key when you're starting out, or I guess at any time. The ones that sit in front of me that are like, no, I'm going to do my own tax return and I'm going to do my own this and do my own this and do my own this. Okay, well, that's just a little bit, it's a little bit of a kiss of death at times, depending on your abilities, obviously, but just having that open-mindedness that no matter what it is, sometimes you're going to have to spend money on your business, You're going to have to spend money to organize something, right? To clear out the clutter, to be able to move forward in a positive manner. I mean, it's worth it to spend money on various services. So, and I'm not just talking about accounting. There's plenty of other professional services that you really need to pay attention to. Insurance. I just recently, within the last year, had somebody that wasn't paying attention to their insurance enough. Their kid got in an accident. His life is pretty taken down, including his business, because he didn't have proper insurance, because he wasn't paying it, just all those things. Just set it up right, lay that good foundation to be able to move forward, or start it now. And just having that mindset of realizing that, what you need to do to structure that business properly. I was going to go through entity types a little bit. I think that helps most people, especially if you are right now doing your own tax return, which is a no. Don't do your own tax return. Stop it right now. Doesn't have to be me. Doesn't have to be me. Just a good professional needs to be looking out for you, because there's a couple different things that need to happen. One, if you're currently a sole proprietor, that might be fine, but just being a sole proprietor doesn't put you in a good position for if and when your business grows, if you're on that trajectory, to be able to make some changes. So there's sole proprietor, there's LLC. Does anybody have partners, or is everybody single member, single owner? You have a partner, Jennifer? Okay. So this is it gets a little more complicated when you have a partner, but this still sort of holds true. There's sole proprietor, LLC, single member or multi, and then there's S corporation. The only reason we ever care about an S corporation is if we're trying to control self-employment tax. So I don't know if any of you have ever been in a position where maybe the first year that you had some good net profit, your taxes were like, what? Because maybe you weren't planning for it and you weren't realizing that you were going to hit with income tax plus self-employment tax. So what happens is, if you're in a single member LLC position or sole proprietor, and you have, let's say, 100,000 of net income. Net means after expenses, right? Gross is total sales. Net income is after your expenses. If you have, let's say, 100,000 of net income, that's great. But if you're not prepared that when you do your tax return and report that, you're going to get hit with income taxes, regular, somewhere between 12 and 25% maybe, plus state. But then what happens is, because you're either a sole proprietor or a single member LLC, you get hit with an additional about 15% self-employment tax. So once you're up to some sort of additional level of net income, we need to talk about electing to be taxed as an S corporation. Is anybody already an S? Nobody yet? And maybe that's okay, because it's all about whether or not your income is at a level that you want to make that switch, and that it's a good idea all around. So just keep that in mind. And a big reason to never just stay a sole proprietor. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna ask, so at what point financially make a switch to an S Corp? The 100
For
grand?
everybody. It's actually personality driven and how you're running your business. So here are two different examples. One, well, first of all, I fully know how to do all of the things. So it's not hard for me to run an S corporation. It would be very weird if it was. So I was never going to be a single member LLC, no matter what the bottom line was. There's no additional cost to me doing the extra tax. It doesn't make any sense. I fully can do an S corporation. It's not more painful for me. Then someone maybe that is a single member LLC, but has employees already. So you already have employees, you're already running payroll. It's not a big jump to switch to adding yourself to the payroll that you're already running, right? Now, conversely, I had this, I'll never forget her. I used her all the time. I had hairdresser, and she was on me. every year, I only had her as a client for maybe 3 years because she hated me after this, oddly enough. Every year, how do I save on my taxes? How do I save on? I'm like, okay, well, we can do this S corporation, because she was making like 40,000 ish net, with, being a hairdresser. It was great. But that self-employment piece is another $6,500 or so. I mean, that's big. Did I do that math right? Whatever, 15% of 40. So, I was like, okay, well, let's do this. And I always lay out, all right, this means that I have an extra tax return to prepare, so my fees are going to go up a little bit. You need to put yourself on payroll, so we can't save the whole amount. She hated it because she didn't want to do all the administrative stuff that came with it. Do you know what I mean? So it is personality driven and how you're already running your business and really what you want to accomplish. I've had other people that are like, I don't care. I hate the government. And even if my dollars are exactly the same, I would rather pay you and I would rather pay a payroll professional to do my payroll than pay any more cents to the government. You know what I mean? So personality comes into play more than you might think, Kathy, more than you might think it does. But the biggest key to remember, never, if anybody is just a sole proprietor and you have not created an LLC to run it as a single member LLC, do it now. There is just the smidge of more administrative costs and duties that come with it. And it really is just every 2 years, you have to tell the Secretary of State you're still here and file like a $20 business entity report. And you have to put your LLC name and EIN on your Schedule C. But if you just do that and take that step to be an LLC, everything could remain the same. But now, if, let's say you've been trucking along, you net like $5,000-$10,000 each year. But then out of nowhere, 2021 hits and something happens and you go through the roof, your business goes crazy. And you're like, I don't have time to talk to my accountant. If you then come to me in February of 2022, which this happened with an author I had, and you're like, ugh, I totally spaced it. I just made $100,000 and I didn't do anything to help with the self-employment tax. We can retroactively elect for you to be taxed as an S Corp and save that 15%. But we can only do that if you're already an LLC. If you're a sole proprietor in that same scenario, you're stuck. Nothing to do. So one thing I really always, in things like this and kind of your types of businesses, just get the LLC if you have not already. And then you have that flexibility. And you can also, once you elect the S, if in 5 years something changes with your business, you can only do it after 5 years, you can remove the S election and go back to being an LLC. So it gives you that full flexibility. Or if something changes with tax code, which it's not going to change for the better now, but with tax reform a couple years ago, there was some major analysis to be done on whether or not a C corporation would be good. Doesn't matter now, but an LLC can be taxed as a C corporation. So that LLC is just the full flexibility to be on the right track no matter what you got going on. Don't stay in a sole proprietor. That helps. But again, have a professional in your life where you can bounce this off of really quick to make sure you're going forward. Any questions about that? Yeah, Kathy?
So if you hit a certain gross income, is there like a monetary, like, hey, if you're doing over 50 gross or 100 in a year,
again, it's personality driven. So I usually tell my clients that are, when they're starting out, when we're kind of getting to know each other, or just in any given year, once you are maybe hitting that 10K to 20K, and you think maybe it could go up from there, start the conversation.
Okay.
Let's at least start checking in to see what's appropriate.
Okay. And
I have a question which might tag off of Lori's that she put in there. Because Lori asked, so it's better if I become an S Corp. So that's like kind of part one. My extension to that is between an LLC and an S corp, what does that do when you throw employees in there? Because I think there's some rule changes. Is there some rule changes as far as like the payroll's concerned? Like you have to be paying your employee something. I don't know. Maybe I'll let you.
The only rule is paying yourself.
Okay.
So here's why it's a little bit more administrative, whatever. First of all, pay someone else to do your payroll. Do not do your own payroll. Just don't. It's too cheap. It's too important. It's more than just writing a check to pay yourself payroll. But so the trade-off, let's say, okay, let's use the $100,000 scenario, okay? Your business is making 100,000. If you leave it as an LLC, you're going to get hit with your, I don't know what, it depends on the rest of your taxes too, but let's call it 20% plus 15% self-employment tax, okay? That's a lot. If you elect to be taxed as an S corporation, that 15% goes away. The trade-off is that now you, as an owner that is active in your business and working in your business, if you weren't working in your business and you were just an investor, someone else was running it fully, you don't have to do this. But if you're working in it, you have to pay yourself a reasonable wage. So that means like, and this is where I pay myself aggressively low to save on payroll taxes. After this last tax season, I probably can't back up how much I pay myself, but hopefully I can wiggle back into some lower hours in the summer to be able to defend it. But so in the, you know, if let's say you can feel good about paying yourself and you can defend a salary of 30K. Like if I was going to work for someone else, this is what I would expect to be paid. If I was going to replace myself and hire an administrative person to run things, I would pay them 30K. So now you run $30,000 payroll for yourself. You pay the self-employed Medicare. It's pretty much the equivalent of self-employment tax, but you save it on that 70. You see that? So that's where, you know, if you're only making 20,000, netting 20,000, well, I mean, you know, you could run a payroll and for 10 and save it, but I don't know, is that really getting you anywhere? The other thing that I like, especially if you're on like maybe it's not a slam dunk this year, but you're on a path of going up. I like the change in cash flow management that it brings to, you know, you could have the exact same dollars on a tax return, but if you are self-employed, paying that tax net when you full that tax calculated with your tax return versus someone that's got a paycheck every 2 weeks, every month, whatever, and the taxes are being taken out there and you've wiggled into that net pay, it feels so much different. So that's another plus to being an S corp, is that paycheck kind of puts you into that automatic rhythm of being accustomed to that net pay and paying taxes in as you go. Major mom, agree to disagree, depending on what your background is. I don't know, is she still on? The Intuit assisted payroll via QuickBooks is awesome. Maybe, but I actually just Monday had a client switch from a payroll company to QuickBooks, the Intuit assisted. And they thought that it was a payroll company and it is not. You still have to do it. And now they're finding out that no forms were filed, only some deposits were made, and they're in a mess. All because it was like $10 a month cheaper or something stupid.
I've used it for 12 years and they do all of our forms. So they may have not signed up for the correct version.
Oh, the Intuit assisted. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, they do everything.
Better.
And we just enter the hours on the computer. So yeah, I've been using it for 12 years. I'm an S corp and been in business for 15. So we switched away from other payroll companies to Intuit Assisted because you can slam all the data right into QuickBooks, which was saving us bookkeeping fees big time.
I mean, recording payroll isn't big, but I mean, that's great. If you're someone that knows how to do payroll and you're comfortable with that, obviously great. I definitely caution people against it if you're just starting out, you have no beginning knowledge of payroll or anything like that. It's not a good idea.
Well, in Intuit assisted payroll, all you do is enter the hours, and either your bookkeeper has to figure out their hours or you do. So somebody has to give the payroll company the hours,
Yeah, okay, that's,
unless you're on salary. So you're probably have yourself on salary, not hourly.
right, me, sure, but I've got hourly employees. I mean, yeah, it's personality driven, it's your abilities, it's all the things. But so even with that though, now we've got this employee retention credit, tax credit going on, this 2020, all the bills that have come out, you know, it's more important than ever to have good professionals that you can talk to be able to, you know, do the amended returns, take the tax credits, all the things that are necessary to take advantage of those things.
Can I ask a question, Tressa, on the on taking payroll for yourself? Does that look at claiming it as a yearly salary and then breaking that up over 12 months? And then if you have a better month, you draw a bonus off of that. Is that kind of what that philosophy looks like versus like, so as organizers, some months we might have a really, really good month and then other months might be really slow. So summer might get a little slower, or back to school, like August, September might get a little slower. So it might feel more painful to take a payroll if it's like we're taking $5,000 a month as payroll, whatever, you know, I don't know, but, you know, even if it's less than that, but, if you feel like you're not bringing in that month, what might cover your expenses and your payroll?
It's completely, all that matters is the reasonable total gross pay by the end of the year. And how you end up doing that throughout the year is up to you and what works good for you. So yeah, I mean, you can absolutely, you can, you know, get on some sort of rhythm, like, all right, I'm going to pay myself $2,000 a month, $1,000 every other week, whatever it is, and then pause it, start. I mean, that's totally fine.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. And then you have control within whatever payroll system you're using or person or whatever to up that or lower that or whatever. Okay.
Yeah.
I have another question, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in the scenario of like the 100,000, you say, let's say you pay yourself 30 and then you let that other 70 sit there. Like, what are you planning with that? Not all of that would be expenses at the end. So like in the lesser year, you pay yourself more or?
No. So, okay. That's a good question. The 70 doesn't have to sit there. You can take that additionally out as draw. So just like if right now you're not running any payroll for yourself, and you know, you're paying yourself by taking draws, that doesn't change. It's now a combo of first, we just need to set that reasonable wage so the IRS is happy if I get audited. Then beyond that, you can take the draw.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. And I see a lot of accountants do payroll and bookkeeping. Some do both. We actually just finally got rid of our last payrolls at the end of the third quarter of 2020 because it just doesn't make any sense for us to do it. We don't focus on it. I do my own payroll, but even then, sometimes every now and then I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'll pay somebody else to do this. But I mean, it's just payroll companies, that's what they do. So they've got, you know, more advanced software that they invest in. They've got the process. I mean, we were fine, but it wasn't a good use of our time, or we weren't providing the best services for our clients either. What I prefer and what I love is there's BBCS in Lafayette. That's great. Yeah, ADP is actually my other referral that Lori just said. There's a great local rep in Lafayette, and for a long time I wasn't on board with ADP until I got hooked up with him, and he grew up here. He's here. I was more impressed with some other regional people that are focused on stuff. And the great thing is they get hooked up with ADP. They've got huge amount of resources, or BBCS, we have the same situation. And I have a dashboard with both that I can just pull the information I need. I never have to say, client, can you please get me this payroll records? Because I can just pull everything I need for the PPP that just went on, for all the things. It's not Some get real wrapped up in wanting both their payroll and accounting and taxes all in the same place, but I don't know that it actually gets you anywhere. It doesn't make any sense. So yeah. The few accounting firms that I know, I mean, even in Lafayette, Heath Thompson's probably our biggest firm, and they even sold their payroll company or their payroll segment a couple years ago. Just, I don't know. Plus, I like to be free to like not be tied to constant due date. I mean, we have plenty of due dates as it is, but payroll, oh my God, it's like somebody's always needs paid, always needs forms filed, deposits. It's just never stops. And
Yeah. Hey, you said that, that prompted me to think, so in QuickBooks, like based on your P&L, it will start giving you your estimated quarterly taxes, kind of based on what you're putting in there. Do you recommend we follow those guidelines through our software, or really just run that, all those quarterly right through our accountant?
are you talking quarterly, like income tax quarterly payments?
Yeah, quarterly taxes. Yeah, paying our quarterly income tax.
Income taxes?
Yeah.
Not, there's quarterly payroll too. I didn't.
Oh, no, sorry. Switched on you.
So, I mean, this is where you need to have a tax professional doing your stuff, because I have never once looked at anything QuickBooks has suggested for a client, because that's not your only piece of the story.
Yeah.
They don't know.
I had some clients question that. Like, I rerun all of ours. My husband and I are both self-employed, so we run everything through our accountant together.
Yeah. And that's,
But yeah, so I was like, you need to ask your accountant that. I think the answer is you should not probably trust QuickBooks to do your
no.
estimated taxes amount
I mean,
for you. But yeah,
maybe it's a good idea if you're like, I don't know, trying to assess something just a little more off the cuff. Like, all right, maybe what do I need to set aside to be prepared? Wouldn't be a terrible thing. But definitely don't act on it or make any payments with it. I mean, that's when, when we were just got done and still doing 2020 tax returns for people, we assess any 2021 quarterly estimates that it looks like could be necessary based on that. Our monthly clients, we do projections beyond that 3 times a year automatically for them that coincide with the three due dates and year end. So, we're doing projections that includes what, the net income in QuickBooks is, but how does that fold into the rest of your pay? I mean, and then if you add in your salary, I mean, QuickBooks would have no way to know what is how much in withholdings you've got. If your spouse changed jobs, did they change their withholding? I mean, there's way too many pieces to the puzzle for a net profit to just, no.
I have a question back on salary versus draws or distributions. What's your opinion on, we generally just take
Oh, you muted.
when our account gets to a certain level as opposed to taking a steady salary?
So, the first step is making sure if you're an S corp, making sure, like we've said, you've satisfied the IRS.
Multi-member LLC.
Okay. So in an LLC, you don't have to worry about, unless your income is higher, you still might need to do an S corp and talk salary. But if it's just an LLC and all you're taking is draws, I mean, that's more, you can do whatever you'd like. There's no rules. You can take $1 a day and then $5,000 and somewhere. I mean, there's no rules at all. However, well, there's not no rules at all. There's rules about equity, but I'm not going to positive equity, but I'm not going to complicate it with this. But it's more to me of, creating that financial plan, to be able to know whether it's a good idea to take that draw. And let me see if I could find, oh, I'm not able to share.
We
My,
do work with an accountant as well. I was just interested in your personal opinion and wondering if
making a plan. So one thing I do every December, and I've started doing with this with other clients too, is I have my own little strategic planning session for sure every year, but then I do this with clients as well, where we start with, all right, in those sessions, we start with where you want to be in 3 years. We back that up to 1 year. What do we need to do? And then we break that down by month. There's a lot more to it, but that's the basics of it. And then we create a financial projection of income dollars we want to hit, those goals, expenses that we expect. Do they want to hire somebody? How does that play into things? And then part of that too is distributions that I want to take. And then it follows cash flow through the year to know whether it's a good idea. And that's a good idea to do whether you are starting out or struggling at any point, or you've got a lot of money coming in and out. Because even when you've got a lot of money coming in and out, or like for me in April, that's my highest cash of the month, April, May, I need to have a plan of, what I'm going to do with that cash as the year goes. So, or just some people are like, ugh, my business is doing really well and I feel like I can take a $20,000 distribution for once, and they feel weird. Like, what does that do to the rest of my year? Drop that into your cash flow, make that part of your plan and see how that plays out. So when you have a plan like that and you project, and even if it's rough, one, it gives you sales goals, which is so important, so important. And two, it just gives you that plan and that comfort level. So you can feel comfortable whether something's a good idea or no, I need to leave that cash in here. We need it for this. Things are going to get tight if I take something big out or whatever.
Okay, well, thanks. Yeah, that gives some validation that that we're on the right track, because a second opinion always helps.
Good. I do that projection for myself every December. I monitor it as the month goes. So far, all 4 months have hit, and I'm pretty close to May too, so that'll be 5 for 5. But I also did it mid-year a couple years ago. I had something that kind of rocked my firm. An employee left. Long story, not going to get into that. But after about 2 days of being like, oh my God, I sat down and I stopped and I did a cash projection for what this changed. And I could breathe and I could make a plan and it was fine. You know what I mean? Like, it just, when you get in that habit of forecasting and really being in tune with your business, it's just huge on so many ways. And like, I've got a lot of trips coming up in May, thank God, short trips, but I mean, it makes me comfortable to know, like, once we hit our projection, not that I'm going to stop working, but like, I can breathe. It's fine. Like it does. Or if we weren't, like, all right, I got to kick it into gear to hit these projections before I, take off a couple days. You know what I mean? I do recommend QuickBooks. The question becomes to me whether desktop or online is a better fit for you. I've heard of the Profit First model. I haven't dug into it a bunch. I see pros and cons to it. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know all of the specifics on it. Think it's okay. I don't know that it's something to like obsess over as some people seem to be, but sure, if it works for some. I also isn't part of it like having different bank accounts that you put different pockets of money in and stuff. That's on a global general situation. This is not everybody. This is not you that's using it. Having multiple bank accounts to juggle just adds complexity. And I think you can get to those concepts and to those goals without doing that. But if it works for you, that's totally great. I'm not saying this is a general, you know,
Yeah,
what
I
I
think that's
see in
awesome.
Hilltop.
Yeah. Can I ask you Jody's question so I don't forget? And it may not be super. Well,
miss
I'll let
it?
you to. Oh, yeah, I don't know if it's off path of where we're at. So, but I feel like if I don't say it, I might forget.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and I'm just going to read it. So she says, in QuickBooks Desktop, I have ran into an issue with a couple of transactions. This feels like more of a bookkeeping question, but maybe you can still relate to it for her. I believe the common thread is an invoice that I have modified after a partial payment is received. So a client will purchase a weekend at my retreat house and pay the deposit. Then she will need to add another guest to it, adjusting the price. I resend the invoice for payment, which they're able to pay online through QuickBooks, and it doesn't allow them to enter the full balance. It generally is the last old balance prior to them adding.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Is there a way to fix this?
Once you can, so I use QuickBooks Desktop, and I use the online bank payment with the invoicing exact same way. And once you create an invoice and send it, if you make any adjustments to that invoice, it will not read the adjustments online. So what I generally do is make a copy of the invoice and send out the new invoice, but and delete the old. It's a dumb workaround, but yeah, that is an issue. And I'm not sure of any other workaround.
Okay. She'll appreciate that. Thanks.
Yep. Yeah, you could create a new invoice for the extra person, sure. But as far as, if an invoice ever needs to be, and it happens every now and then, I don't know, but okay. So the other thing I was going to talk about is some general accounting best practice that I hope a lot of people are doing. One, I hadn't read my own book in quite a while, but I forgot that I talk a lot about organization in my book. I don't know if you noticed that, Mindy. I was like, oh, they'll like this. Got a lot of titles even that says organization. But I mean, the biggest things to think about, and this is if you've got one business or if you've got multiple, if you do nothing else, have one business bank account, credit card, whatever you've got, have it designated. The activity in there is only for that business. And there's no activity for the business anywhere else either. If you need to pay your mortgage, don't pay your mortgage out of the business, take a draw, pay your mortgage. If you need to pay a business expense that, cash is tight, deposit money into your bank account, pay that expense out of your business. Just be really diligent about the business bank account capturing everything. This will make QuickBooks more streamlined, that it'll make whatever, or if you're not doing any accounting, I've got a lot of clients that, they come see me once a year. They're like, yeah, I haven't done anything, but I know that all the activity in the business bank account is all business. So when I see the various transactions, I might have questions, but it's all right there. It's just pretty vital. If you've got multiple businesses, have a business bank account for each business. It's just automatic organization, automatic bookkeeping done for you. Beyond that, as far as organizing just actual paperwork, one kind of rule of thumb that sometimes gets missed is to not organize by date, but instead to organize by either vendor type or vendor name or customer type or customer name. starting right out of the gate, a lot of people will start their business and like create a folder that says, May 2021, and then all the activity from May 21 goes in there. Well, the problem becomes once you're not just talking about a couple months and years go by. Now, if you need to go back and research, if you need to research like a specific vendor, like, wait a minute, my rent is telling me that, or my landlord's telling me that I haven't paid I missed a month. Well, you can just go back to that landlord's folder, and see all of the payments you made, or see any invoices they may have sent, you know what I mean? I know a lot of things are electronic anyway right now, but wanted to throw that out there as a common thing people do. And yeah, we've already kind of touched on it, but my last thing that I was going to talk about is just simply having those goals. Big, small, whatever they are, have goals. Have goals for what you wanted to do with your family, have goals with, and kind of then layer in how to get there. And don't be shy about your goals either. When I do these strategic planning sessions, it's really interesting. And I love the part where I'm like, all right, where do you want to be in 3 years? What do you want to have your cars paid off? How much money do you think you want to make? And it's so strange, male or female, the answer will be like, oh, I don't know. I'd like to sort of kind of be successful. And they'll say something like 100,000. But then when I get to it, like, no, get real. What do you want to do? All right, I want to turn this into a $300,000, $500,000 business. The first one I did a free one for my sister-in-law a couple years ago, who owns a trophy shop. And she was like, well, I can't, what do you even mean? How can I get there? And I was like, by increasing sales 10% each month, or like this year increasing 10%, this year increasing 10%, you're there. And really, like, it's interesting to map out how to get somewhere. Like, start with that starting point. What do you need to do to get there? And does that work with your lifestyle too? So I sat on an expert panel for a MBA class that a friend of mine teaches a couple weeks ago. And I was kind of rattling off some stats because they're, MBA people, they like, growth stats and all that stuff of my own business. And they're like, so if you've, been able to grow it like this, are you going to turn it into like, this much growth in this amount of time? And I was like, no, because I don't want to. That is not part of my plan. We have a plan. It is not tripling my business, because that sounds awful as far as like how many employees I need and the work that goes into it. I don't want to. So yeah.
There's so much to learn for accounting and bookkeeping and all of that stuff. And if you're not familiar with it, it's overwhelming. Luckily, I come from an office background, so I'm pretty decent at it. But even I still need an accountant to do a lot of stuff for me.
Yeah. And I mean, it's touching base, like I said, with an accountant and someone that can help you. Like when I sit in front of them, I'm not like, well, I need to do your monthly accounting, obviously. Maybe I do, maybe I don't, but if I'm not, please at least do this, so that whenever you do want me to jump in and clean it up, do a projection, or just, annually, if you're doing that, then we're all set.
I never thought about doing a projection, but I think it's a great idea to do one.
Oh my God. Can I get control so that I can share my screen? I think I have one on this computer. Let me look. So I can just show you kind of is that beneficial?
Yes, Brooke will help you so you can share your screen.
You should be able to now.
Okay, I do have one. So there's a lot of numbers. Don't freak out. Okay, Don't freak out. So this is a combo, and this is the basic format that I use, obviously changing it depending on the client. Beginning cash, you know, all the months. And this is, I'm doing this because it was somebody looking to buy a business in June. So we started it in June to look at what that first year would be like. Talked about we use this from average sales. So these are their sales goals, which we're going to double these up once they get in there. I set cost of goods sold to be a percentage of sales, if that's an industry you're in. Expenses, expenses, expenses. It gets you to net income. Then these are like, they got to get a loan to buy this business. Owner distributions are, neither of these are expenses, but it decreases cash. So this is where, you know, that you can see as it is, January, February, they're gonna have a shortage that they got to figure out. You see that? Then whatever we set for this first year, I've got that to be a formula on what kind of growth percentage you want to get to. So you can see where if this is a $250,000 annual business, if they increase it 20%, which is pretty doable for most businesses, these are the, you know, how quickly you get up to higher numbers. Cost of goods sold for them, you know, goes in, and maybe increase in employees we were planning on. You see that? So that's kind of, it's a hybrid between a profit and loss and a balance sheet sort of, and just kind of I think a pretty simple cash flow. And then just really thinking through, like if you're in retail, July and January, probably going to be down. For you guys, you know, I'm sure you have some sort of cyclical up and down natural through the year and when people want your services, right? I mean, most businesses do. I obviously do. So.
Well, thanks
That's
for
awesome,
showing that.
Tressa.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's so great and powerful, it really is. I live and die off of mine.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Well, Jennifer and Kathy, who they became partners this past year, will they file a partnership return as a 2-person LLC, and will that help them avoid the self-employment tax?
They will file a partnership return because they're multi-member LLC, anything more than one. But they will get hit with self-employment tax still. And, you know, with it just kind of changes the level of, I don't know, it changes the decision on if and when you need to elect S. And, you know, if you've got one owner and the business itself is making 100,000, and that one owner is like, all right, I'm going to pay myself 30, 40 to control that self-employment piece. Well, if that same business that's netting 100 now has 2 owners, and each owner probably should make 30, 40,000. Well, now you're not really getting anywhere necessarily. But you also have, you're already doing an extra tax return. So like my fee is the same for a partnership return or S Corp. So there's no gauge there. If you're already running payroll anyway, that might not be an additional pain that you care about. It just changes the analysis.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Any other topics or things you want me to cover? Or?
I have one more question. I read books like yours a lot because I'm always looking for those loopholes, if you will, for expenses. And I was wondering if your book addressed them. Sometimes self-employed folks miss out on maybe, especially when you move state to state and things like that, but miss out on things that maybe we should be running through the company, but we're still paying for it out of our business account. Have you seen like a bunch of self-employment issues in Indiana where they're missing out on expenses?
There's no change in what state you're in for that. But no, I mean, I don't necessarily like calling them loopholes. I mean, just, you kind of just think through anything you're touching, like your telephone. You obviously have to use that in your business. Your computer, if there's anything indirect, is the trickiest part to think through. Anything direct usually is pretty obvious, you know. Track your mileage with Mileage IQ or whatever works for you. Maybe it makes sense to put your car into the business. That's a, you know, personalized conversation to have. That's not a straightforward, yes, you should, yes, you shouldn't. You know, it's just thinking through those things, and it's pretty much a one-time think it through. You know, like I've got a couple clients that every year they're like, you know, I don't know what their question is, but it's like, well, is there anything else I can do to save on taxes? Like, well, I would have said if there was, I don't have, sometimes you just don't have some sort of magic wand to, you know, put out there. There aren't major unknown loopholes. You know, there's just.
I have a quick question.
Conversation.
I have a question for you. So I started travel organizing when I came back to the Midwest. I just started it at the beginning of this year. Do I have, like I go out of my own state. So I do Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, just did a job in Florida. Do I have to set up businesses in every state? Can I use my own business and just do something with that? I'm actually put this question into my accountant already.
So there, ideally what your accountant tells you is that, no, you don't have to create different businesses in different states. Definitely not. But you probably need to report your income in various states, depending on the state.
That's what I figured. I'd have to do state taxes and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's not, I don't think you probably have sales tax issues that you need to mess with, but it's a allocation formula for each state. They do it a different way, but it's mainly based on, be based on gross sales for you.
Okay.
So you still report in full in Indiana or wherever you live.
Mm-hmm.
And then you report non-resident sales in different states, depending on how they operate.
Now, is there a better way for me to keep track of that? Or do I just give it to the accountant and say, this is what I did in Kentucky, this is what I did in Michigan? Yeah,
no, my client, I have a couple that are in various states like that, and they just kind of tell me, well, one, they track their payroll by state. They do have their construction, and they do business in Illinois. So their payroll is broken out by state. So I already have that set up. That's in the payroll reports I get. And then I think they just tell me the number, gross sales Illinois, gross sales total, which I have. And yeah, you can use classes in QuickBooks. That's what I was definitely getting to. So however it works for you to track it. If it's not a high volume, don't have to make it complicated. If it is, then there's class tracking. There's also location tracking in QuickBooks Online. I don't love that for a few different reasons, but at a minimum, you can just use classes.
Okay.
But yeah.
That helps. My husband was getting nervous that he's like, I think you're going to have to set up businesses in every state. I'm like, no, I don't. Calm down.
But I mean, it's worth asking what different states mean. Like California, once you're in California, it's $800 minimum tax each year.
I won't go there then.
Yeah. So it's just looking at each state. Michigan used to be cumbersome. They're not anymore.
Okay. Well, so far it's like Florida, Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, Illinois, Kentucky. I think that's about it so far.
Yeah.
If you need help in Florida in the winter, just let me know. I'll go with
You're like the fifth person to say that to me, Mindy. But I'll keep you in mind first.
Anywhere south in the wintertime, just let me know.
Okay. I appreciate it.
Cindy, did you have a question?
Yeah, I had a quick question. I've had my business for about 6 years, and I added Norwex in January of 21. And do I need to have separate, like, I have separate bank accounts, but do I need to have separate debit cards and credit cards and all that for each of those? Because when I go to network, I don't necessarily do my organizing business versus Norwex. So then when, if we go to Wolfie's or whatever, like I'm using one debit card, do I need to split that all up? Because that just seems so overwhelming to me to have 2 credit cards, 2 debit cards, 2 checking accounts, like I have the 2 accounts.
It depends on if you have them set up as separate businesses. If you have them set up as separate entities, then yes, you need to keep them separate.
Okay.
So question on that, because I think other people, well, I don't know if anybody else has this, but like, so that's a multi-level marketing, right? So like the Norwex, so any of those, and I'm actually thinking about this for a particular client of mine, they just probably run that as a sole proprietor underneath their social security number versus having an EIN. So then they could just
Correct.
do that underneath their personal taxes versus business.
Well, all of this ultimately is on your personal taxes.
Right.
It goes back to whether or not you end up wanting, like, how are you going to grow it? How is it insured? How are you going to grow it? And that back to that, is it smart to get an LLC if you think it's going to boom to something else ever? Or are you just keeping this kind of small and on the side and just, great sole proprietorship, completely separate?
When they
Well, I
send
don't
you a check, don't
know.
they take out taxes?
Hmm?
When they send you a check, don't they take out taxes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. 'Cause
Yeah,
it's-
so I wouldn't do an EIN
They
and
don't
all
just
that. It's
1099 you?
just- I don't know. I haven't even gotten that far. I assume they will.
It's direct
Yeah.
marketing, so they send her checks when, so she's not, you know what I mean? So it's not like it's different with direct marketing, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but it should be a 1099 scenario. They might be messing with the sales tax piece of it, if that's what you mean, but she should be getting paid her commission on a 1099. I would be shocked. You're not going to.
Yeah, I'm sure I am. When I did Clever Container way back when, I got a 1099. But then I'm just wondering how do you figure out, if I market both organizing remedies and Norwex at a networking event, because we can say, we can spend 15 seconds on each one, and I'll have people say, oh, I need you to help me with my garage, or somebody afterwards says, oh, I love Norwex, I need this and this, can I order this?
I don't
then
know that
how
I'd
do you
get.
figure out?
I don't know that I'd get too worked up about which one you use when, just as long as if it is blended, come up with a plan on how you're gonna prioritize, or I don't know if prioritize is the word, but maybe one event you use one and another event you use another. What's your main focus in any event? I don't know that it necessarily matters too much, other than your own goals and plan. Taxes and accounting, it doesn't necessarily matter.
Yeah, I'm wondering if I should just
If you've
do
got
it
them
if
in
I talk
separate
to
accounts, then you've already got your accounting kind of laid out for you that you can hand to your accountant.
Well, I've got separate accounts, but I've got one debit card because they asked me if I wanted a debit card for Norwex, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is gonna. And then it's like a credit card, and all of a sudden it was getting, super complicated, super fast. I didn't know how well Norwex was going to take off. It's taken off really well. But now I'm wondering, now that I'm talking to you today, it's like, gosh, maybe I should, I'm only 4 months in, maybe I should go get that debit card for Norwex and go get that credit card. And it just sounds
I would
like
say, a credit card is adding another account, but a debit card is just a way to access the account you already have. So
yeah. Just adds complexity. So that's why I was asking, trying
Sure.
to keep it simple.
Yeah. This has been good.
Tressa, did you see, you maybe already hit this, sorry, because I walked away, but Kara asked in the chat thoughts about FreshBooks like those instead of QuickBooks for someone
Uh-uh.
starting off their
Don't.
business smaller?
No. When those popped up, they lull you into such a sense of, oh, your accounting just gets done for you. But they don't have good balance sheet. They don't have, I mean, it misses a lot of steps. That is just use QuickBooks. Even starting out, they're simple, they are always changing the name of the most basic version of it. Sometimes it's free, sometimes it's not. I cannot keep track with that one, but you can even use that to start out. And then like I've got one right now, she's, was using that to begin with. And then she wanted to do a quarterly projection because she's growing a little bit. And I'm like, you know what? You need to bump it up to the next level so we can get a little bit just more specific with your accounting. So that's a good balance to do if you don't want to jump right into the 35 a month, whatever it is. If you're using, an online version, QuickBooks Online.
Yeah, I feel like the lowest level right now is like the self-employed, and it's like $9 a month or something. It used to be 5,
Yeah.
now it's 9. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a fine place to start because like I said, it can easily be upgraded and worked with.
Can I
But
comment?
you gotta have something. You can't ignore some of the other pieces of it.
I will say something though with the self-employed. When I did go from self-employed to the next, you couldn't flip it over. You had to start completely over. So I was like, oh man. So
Yeah, I think the workaround there is exporting everything out of the self-employed and importing it into the next version, but there is no like flip the switch and it all moves over seamlessly.
So don't do it for very long because it was like,
to.
oh my gosh. And they told me, oh yeah, you can't do that. And I was like, oh man, I wish I'd have known that because so just know that.
I mean,
Sorry, go ahead. I have a question when you're done. Go ahead.
Just sooner than later, really, it becomes just necessary to have all the pieces. And it kind of goes to, what's your goal with this business? Is it to treat it like a side gig? If that is, super. But if it's to treat it like a serious business, then you need to have all the accounting functions,
With QuickBooks, are you ladies able to email invoices to your clients? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We have an accountant I use for real estate, and I have kept track of everything in Excel. I just have not switched over to QuickBooks. And someone I listen to, that's not my gifting. I keep track of stuff and I'm detailed, but I'm not going to do my taxes ever anymore. So, but someone I had heard said they started off using FreshBooks because QuickBooks was just too overwhelming and hard to navigate for them. That's why I asked that question.
QuickBooks is one of the most user-friendly accounting programs I think that there is out there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason it's popular.
I mean, I know like everyone uses it. I just haven't tried it yet. So thanks.
And I mean, one of the great things about it is it's very easily manipulated. So you can take a stab at it, then I can fix it, whatever, and give you some tidbits on how to change what you're doing and how you're using it and just kind of grow from there. There's no reason, like I would never do like, oh, let's do an 8-hour training session so that you know how to use this in full. Ugh. Maybe I'll show you how to use it in 30, 60 minutes, go use it. Let's see how you do. Boom, you're good. I mean,
Gotcha. Thanks.
The CRM integration, maybe. I'm always cautious on anything really pulling financial data into QuickBooks. Even PayPal does a shit job. Like, just make sure before you pull something in, it's mapped correctly and it's actually worth it. Because pretty easily you could cause more pain than really is necessary.
Angela, did we get your question on thoughts around the home office deduction? Did you guys talk about that? I don't know if you did or not. It's up in the chat further. I just saw it, but I stepped away for a minute, so I wanted to make sure.
No, I know that bit us in the butt a long time ago, but we had a very large home and deducting a very large amount. And when we sold, we had to add that back in somehow to the capital gains. But, now we've downsized big time. So I'm wondering, would it be a smart thing to do a home office deduction?
Yeah, I mean, you can, there is a scenario where, and I caution people against this with home office deductions, where if you're depreciating your house and you're really going all in on the home office deduction, then yeah, when you sell, if you've got a big gain, then you've got to report a portion of that. And it's tough to make people aware of that. You're still getting a deduction, you know, as you go. Ideally, it's worth it. But there's also other ways to make a more simplified deduction. A couple years ago, they added in the just $5 per square foot. Simple home office deduction. Sometimes that's, you know, sometimes it's better, sometimes it's worse. And sometimes it's just what people want to do because they don't want to screw with all the other, you know, information to get me. And then you're not in that, you're not deducting your house. You don't have to mess with that as much. or at
I
all.
just do the square footage and it works fine.
Yeah.
Because I have a set office, so
But if you also like, you know, clients that sell stuff on eBay, for example, some of them build big warehouses on their, you know, or a pool barn or whatever, and they've got a huge amount of expense on their property because they are using it and it's legit. You know, there are scenarios where it makes more sense to do a full home office deduction, but yeah, more often than not, the simplified version is great and kind of gets you there a little better.
so if you use your telephone though for business and personal, I only do like 75% for business and 25% personal because I'm on it mainly for business anyway. Is that accurate? Like, I just took it upon myself to do that part of it.
Again, that's personality driven. Some
Yeah.
people would want to really get specific and maybe are more comfortable doing less. Others want to do just 100%. I write off 100%.
Yeah, I probably could too, because I would say it's probably more like 90% business, 10%
Yeah,
personal.
I personally would, you know, there's really no reason to bother with the split.
Okay.
They eased up on telephone rules several years ago.
Okay. And the same with internet and your home office and everything like that. Like, I guess those little things, I just split almost right down the middle for most of it. I don't know if that's
fine.
right or not.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on your circumstances and how you're using a home office.
That made me think, is there any benefit? So my husband and I are both self-employed. Is there any benefit for us running so we provide, like we have private health insurance. Is there any benefit running that through our business, one of our businesses, to pay for
No.
that versus paying ourselves and then paying it out of our personal?
If you're an S corp, there's specific rules on how you have to do it. But if you're just
An
LLC,
LLC?
then no, it's treated the same whether your business pays for it or not.
Okay, so there's no tax advantage to running it through your business first.
No.
Tax savings.
But make sure you're getting the deduction on your personal return.
Yeah, we do that. We do that. Yeah. This has been awesome, Tressa. This is
Yeah?
super helpful.
Good.
Any
Yeah.
other questions? Okay.
Thanks for letting us off the cuff Q&A. I figured is
Oh,
there
yeah.
anything that you didn't cover with us that you think is a good last
Nope.
takeaway?
I had 4 little bullet points here and we got to them. So this is usually how it goes. You know, you've got personal questions that you want to know. I don't want to just rattle off stuff that isn't important to you guys. So
No.
I'm definitely switching over to an S corp. So you changed my mind on that already.
oh, good. Nice.
Someone's asking about a link to the book. You want to?
Oh, it's just on Amazon, but I can put that in here.
So yeah, if you want to drop the link to the book and how we can find you, like where we can connect with you at, we'll make sure to put that back out too. That way, for those DIYers, when they're ready, we've got a good resource for them.
Yeah.
Right.
I think we all feel that a lot of people fall into business accidentally. And so we think we can do it all, but we realize we shouldn't be doing it all.
We're all good at a lot of it. We're just not perfect at it like an accountant would be.
And it's not why, like, I don't know about you guys, but that is not why I got in business, was to be an accountant. I got in
Yeah.
business to organize things. So
I've been using.
Yeah, I mean,
accountants
ideally,
to worry about.
ideally, whoever you're using, not
Amen.
Sorry.
sparks my joy.
That spark joy. Amen.
Ideally, whoever you're using has an approach of wanting to be a resource for you, not just, slapping your tax return together. It's really important.
That's why it's good to have a good connection with your accountant so you can talk
Yeah.
to them. They understand what you want, what you need.
And I mean, as much as 2020 was ridiculous and the last spring was nuts, and even this spring, it really just, I'm more connected to my clients than ever. That's the positive of it, that I'm trying to see, it was vital. Anyone that I am not like, that isn't paying attention to my emails or, doesn't feel comfortable reaching out to me or want to, whatever the case is, I've got 600 clients, so not all of them call me every day, but the ones that did, and that, I mean, we did a lot of work to help get them through this pandemic. So it was great. My husband was
Angela's
very good
asking.
about reminding me that when I was breaking down last spring.
Angela needs a new bookkeeper. She wondered if you had anyone you recommend, or if anybody on here does.
I do bookkeeping for clients. I don't know how involved you want to get. There's a couple bookkeepers in Lafayette that do an okay job. I don't know, it depends on what your goals are for the bookkeeper. I'm not trying to shove myself down your throat by any means, but
And she may send you an email or a message and touch
Oh,
bases.
good.
Yeah, I mainly need someone to reconcile and oversight the data entry part. Super easy.
Nice. I am not on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook, but man, I was good for a while there posting. I mainly just kind of post when we like go out for drinks on April 15th and stuff like that.
Or May 17th, whatever.
No, they can take that new due date and
Yeah.
shove it. I said, I am not. They did that in like what, mid-March?
Yeah.
Like you can't, imagine being 20 miles into a marathon and they're like, just kidding, it's 35 miles. And we all have like, trips planned, something you look forward to when it's April 15th is done. And you have that, that completely screwed us accountants once again. It was awful.
Tressa,
Nope.
is there an email or anything that I might be able to reach out to at?
Awesome.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tressa.
Thank you so much.
And it's Heath, not Health. That's the,
Or Heath.
or Heath. That was new.
Oh, you
Love you, Mindy.
You wouldn't believe the things that I get too. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I got a paycheck one time, actually FUCK.
Nice.
I asked them if I could keep it and I just put void on it, but they wouldn't let me.
Right.
It was from a bank.
Was it your last one and or maybe someone's last day?
No, I think they probably, how you sit there and talk to somebody, and they were probably thinking, oh, I wonder if she's ever gotten this, and so it was probably in their mind, and
Yeah.
I got it and I just went,
Absolutely.
oh my gosh.
Like, yeah, I've never gotten that one before, guys. Does anybody ever put a Y on the end of it?
Oh.
EY, which I think would be fun.
Every now and then Heath
I've gotten a lot of
Associates gets Heath ass gets posted on something.
Tressa, are you related to Jody?
Distantly, I believe.
Okay.
I think it's my husband's, I don't know if they're first cousins. The Heaths are older, and I think
Bless you.
because
Thank
my father-in-law's young for his siblings. He was the baby, so like all Drew's cousins on that side are a lot older. So
Okay.
I lose track on.
I knew her in college. I knew Jody in college.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm the older crowd, apparently.
No, I mean,
She meant that in the most nice way she could,
I
Jen.
know it.
I'm sweating.
Luckily, she's older than me, so she's really old.
Well, there you go. See?
Yeah, I'm young.
One thing I've learned with names, it's like there's so many pronunciations for everything because Dana, I have 4 friends and, Dana, Dana, and I always have to remember each one because they get really offended. It's like, I'm Dana, I'm Dana. I'm like, okay, which one's Dana? Which one's Dana? I'm like, oh my
I know.
gosh.
I mean, people,
So-
I don't. I get
They're
Tourette's.
the same. Like
I don't
one
get,
doesn't have
why
two
would you get
N's.
offended?
No, they're spelled exactly Dana, but pronounced differently. And so it's like, oh, okay, which one's which, So yeah.
Get it?
They
I went
gotta
from
have a
Jones to
basic name.
Winings.
Kathy.
So, and I'm terrible at unless I've heard it said out loud. And then, anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, is there anything else anybody wanted to
Tressa.
bring up? Anything going on out there in the professional organizing world you want to mention or bring up, or any events or anything? If not, we can
Yeah.
go ahead, Cindy.
I have an event. A good friend of mine, Cindy Church, she's a real estate agent with Keller Williams. I just posted it on my Facebook page and my Organizing Remedies page, but I can post it on our page too. They have a free shredding event on Friday. I just got the postcard today. So last minute, but at Village Farms at 146th and Oak Ridge, free shredding on Friday, May 14th from 3 to 5 p.m. So if any of our clients need that, I've got a bunch I can bring over. So I was pretty excited to get that postcard in the mail.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Anything else? Okay. All right. Well, I think we can leave early. I know we all have lots going on, so we might as well not just take time to chat and go ahead and dismiss. So next month, we have
Tressa.
Mel or
Thank
Melinda.
you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Tressa.
Tressa. We appreciate
Thanks, Tressa.
Thank you.
We have Melinda or Mel Miller is going to be talking. She's going to be going over a little bit of the NAPO and the navigating the site and any information on that. So be ready with any questions that we might have. Anything else, Brooke or Jen, Kathy, that we need to talk about?
No, I think our only other kind of dangling carrot out there is we would really like to be intentional about getting a field trip or a means of coming together and serving and finding a volunteer opportunity where we can do that together as a group. And so I know we kind of we have next month with Mel, and then July we break, right? We break in July. So theoretically, we're thinking, I think we said like late summer, early fall. So like September, October gives us August to get kids off and situated back to school and breathe again after the summer. So anyways, be keeping that out. I think we're going to put something out in the newsletter to get a buy-in from people so that we can, if you have a specific organization. So I think we heard a couple of them. I have them written down somewhere, but as far as, I'll throw those out there probably in the Facebook group to let people chime in on. But if there's something that's near and dear to your heart, or you've heard of something where could use some extra hands on deck to help, throw them our way. You can get with Kathy or Jen or Mindy or myself or all of the above, because we want to make sure they go in the pot to be looked at.
Yes, please. And we always want suggestions. People aren't really giving them to us too much, I'm surprised, but of what you want to hear about educational information. I'm looking at, I know a gal who, I actually changed my insurance recently. So I'm thinking about having her speak about insurance. And we're just trying to think of other topics, information that you want to hear about, because we want to get people and information that you're interested in. So we want your input. Once again, you can email, text, whatever, put it in the Facebook group, whatever, say, hey, how about someone to talk about XYZ? Or I know a great speaker. Give us.
Yeah, because we've been trying to plan quarterly, and so that way we give speakers enough of a heads up to plan, especially when they're have their own busy seasons. So Tressa was a great example of that, like trying to find somebody to talk about accounting and bookkeeping stuff when they're not in the middle of tax season. So yeah, I kind of just looked at my list. So we have like August is potentially insurance. So we kind of coined that for August. September being possible field trip. Restore the Julian Center is one of the things I wrote on there. So I think that's what I had down as my note. October, we're looking at tentatively having hoarding, having some education around hoarding. And November's open, and then December will be our holiday party. So yay for parties and people and being in person and all things that this extrovert needs in her life.
Yes.
Brooke,
So we're gonna run out of ideas at some point. So if you guys want,
So what'd you say, Jen?
we're gonna run out of ideas at some point. So if you guys want to chime in and
Yeah,
let us know what you want to hear about, we'll try to line up some speakers.
love it. What you got, Angela?
it just came to my mind very quickly because we just had a call with the multi-business person SIG at NAPO. A really great topic is tips, referral fees, and the NAPO Code of Ethics, and kind of ethical business decisions, because there seem to be what the difference between ethical and different business decision. And I think that would be a very lively conversation, or, tips, referral fees, and, the NAPO Code of Ethics, because although only some of us are NAPO members, that probably would be a good idea to talk about the code of ethics that the industry is kind of promoting. I think that would be really good. And we had some pretty heated debates on referral fees from vendors. And I was surprised by the debate. And so I thought, that'd be probably good to talk about locally.
Yeah, because clients always want to give us stuff. They're like, and you're like, oh, that's cute, or oh, that's nice. They're like, do you want it?
And some organizers take stuff from clients and some don't. And there's where we get into the ethical problem. I've had a lot of conversations in 15 years, and what really went haywire in Ohio the last year was an organizer was taking all of her client's stuff and, unbeknownst to the client, selling it at her house in a garage sale.
Ouch.
Oh,
So I think it's probably good to have a conversation about those things once a year, because I think ethics is a fun class in college and high school, but it's also a fun topic in the industry. So that'd be fun.
And some people might not know, like I've even been posting my clients' stuff on my Facebook page, but they don't know that I turn around and give the money back to the client. You know what I mean? So I'm selling their stuff, but I'm not keeping the money, but they're like, yeah, can you sell this for me? Yes. But I turn around and give them the money, or they ask me then to take the money to a not-for-profit, and then I give the receipt to them for the not-for-profit. So even though I'm selling stuff, I never thought about, they might not realize that I'm selling the stuff for the client.
Right.
I do the same thing, Mindy. I
Okay.
sell for the client and give the money back to the client.
Do you charge, that begs the question, do you charge an hourly rate then, or you just do it as you're on your own time?
I
Like, how does
charge a
that work?
percentage fee for mine. Like if you, sorry, I got an assistant coming to my door right now for training, so I gotta go. I'll shut off in a
Just
minute.
be careful, Lori, be careful on taxes if you're taking a commission. 'Cause you need
Okay.
a business license for that.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I just do some of my time, although I laugh because like a couple of them, I'm like, oh, I counted 15 minutes, when I'm like, really, I spent a lot more than 15 minutes on
Right.
I'm like, or a half hour. I'm like, okay, I probably ripped myself off a little bit, but I'm like, you know what? Whatever. I'm like, because I don't like selling stuff. Most of the time I try not to, but I'm like, oh crap, this was like that. I don't know if you probably didn't see it because I didn't put it on my personal page, but I sold a kitchen table and chairs. It was a Crate and Barrel. And I was like, oh, it's a nice one. I thought it would not take that long. And I was like, crap. I had it at 150, took it down to 125, finally took it down to 95 and had 4 people fighting over it. I'm like, that was more of a pain in the butt than it was worth. That's why I don't like to sell stuff.
Yeah,
like,
we just say
"Oh,
no now. We just don't do it.
I'm like, this is why I don't do it. It's a pain in the patootie. But I don't know if you saw lately though, I had a free piano because you know what? I didn't want fire dogs and she didn't really want fire dogs just taking it and dumping it, but it's a pain to move a piano. So luckily it was this lovely family with young kids and the grandparents. She's like, just give it to them. And so, you know, they came and got it and, you know, it was free. Then 2 people, you know, but the biggest thing is people say, oh yeah, I'll come and get it. I'll take it. I'm like, well, you have to come and get it. Oh, well, I thought it's free, but you have to come and get it and you need to come and get it within a week. So, you know, anyway. Whatever.
Sometimes it's better just to be a resource, to be like, oh yeah, I don't do that, but here's the
So
5
luckily,
places that you can call to come pick it up or whatever, or have a minimum, you know, it's got to be a $500, a $300 item or up, or above
nice thing
or
is I
something, so
connected-
it's worth your time.
Yeah, I connected the people. I met them out there, so I still charged my rate of me being there. I connected the 2 people. They were thrilled. It happened, you know, whatever. So, but I counted my time of being there to, you know, so anyway, but yeah, I'm like, I don't want to sell stuff. And I'm like, but every so often but whose fault is that?
Yeah, I mean, we have a hard time sometimes saying no to clients, and you know, we want to do everything for them, and we've learned, because we've said yes too many times, that there's just certain things that we can't make any money on. It's not worth our time. It actually costs us to do it. And so we're getting better at that, but we still say yes too often, but you know, you just
Day
learn.
at a time.
I do it about once or twice a year. And then I'm like, yeah, that was a pain. Why'd I do it?
I had somebody that had a rust, only a little bit of rust on it, but a big dog crate. And she's like, I don't know what I'm going to do with that. Can you take it? And she just looks so pathetic. I was like, yeah, I can take it. And as soon as I got in my car and it's scratching the side, I'm like, oh, now what am I going to do with it? Now I'm going to pay $20 to dump it with the, you know, bulk trash or whatever.
Take the route where there's a Goodwill on the way home.
Yeah, I've done that too. I think, yeah, I've done that too.
I know sometimes you kind of let them think it's going to somewhere good and you're like, whatever, but yeah.
It's going to my file 13 as soon as I empty out my car when I get back from your place.
Yeah.
Sometimes just stuff isn't donatable.
Angela's over there like, this is why we need the ethical business decision conversation.
I'm like, it went to a good place. Yeah, it got taken care of.
When I can take Ucky, you know, sheets and blankets and I take it to the Humane Society and they are thrilled, you know, I love when I can at least do that, you know, when they think
Yeah, they love even torn or stained towels and blankets. They'll take.
Do you guys have a favorite one or one that you feel like is more in need, like local to Indy, like around here that's
I just always do Hamilton County because
that's probably closest.
But the Indy Humane Society over off of Michigan Road.
Michigan. Yeah, that's usually where I go to, but I'm not always over there. So I kind of keep a basket of them going or a bag of them.
Yeah, the other thing you can do is go to a Petco or PetSmart because they have donation bins too.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, right inside their front doors.
Is it PetSmart or Petco or both?
I know Petco does.
Okay.
Positive on PetSmart.
I've never seen it at PetSmart, but to be honest, we don't go that often and I've not been looking for it. I mean, I'd have to trip over it to probably
The
notice
PetSmart is one we go to on 82nd and Allisonville. So I'll look the next time I'm there.
Ask them. Yeah, we're in the pet stores often. I don't know if you've seen my little buddy jumping up and down behind me.
That's half the reason my camera keeps going off is because my dog is like swiping the gal's tennis shoes. The guy utility marker was outside and the dog was out harassing the guy marking utilities in our yard. It's fine.
Sleeping.
I found out about a new place, by the way, which I need to get back on that form, but PACE, and they take men's clothes and men's things. I don't find too many places. And one of my clients said, would you please take it? Although it was kind of a pain because it's on like Keystone and 40 something or 30 something.
Why is that a pain? That's right in my hood. Are you working out on my hood? I mean, I do say I live in the hood, girls. So
It was a pain because there's construction. So it's one lane.
Oh, that is bad down there.
Yeah, oh, it's a pain driving it. I was like, oh.
But now I just found out the other day, somebody was asking where to take men's clothes, and a lot of people mentioned Third Phase on Allisonville. And
Yeah.
I thought they were just women's clothes. And they're like, no, they take men's clothes.
What was
It's like-
it?
it's a-
Third phase.
Third Phase.
Where's
No,
that?
Bill Allisonville.
Is that by Melting Pot? Is that the place over by? Is it?
Mm-mm.
No, it's like 131st in Allisonville.
Oh.
Or
Yeah.
But I thought they were just a women's shelter. So why are they taking men's
They are.
stuff? And a lot of people responded that. And then somebody was like, isn't it a women's shelter? They're like, oh, they take men's stuff too. It's like, what?
I didn't know that.
I
Yeah.
take all of the men's stuff to Wheeler Mission usually because they have their drop off, even though it's downtown, is incredibly easy. It's like you just pull up on the back. There's always people there that come out and unload it all for you.
Nice.
And they just serve so many men in the indie community that are in need. And
Well, and don't forget about Thrifty Threads there at 86 The Ditch. I mean, that's my one-stop drop. All the money goes to the Julian Center for Battered Women, Men, and Children. And you literally just pull around back by
half price
Half Price Books, ring the doorbell, and they happily come get it. I mean, that might be
I
a
do a lot
place. I mean,
there.
I know they're quote unquote for profit, but if you've ever been in their back room, oh my gosh, I don't know how tall, it's like 2 stories, it feels like, and they've just got stuff, I mean, piled to the ceiling. I mean, there's
Yeah.
literally a path to walk through there and everything else. It's just piles. It's not even bags. It's like piles of stuff. But it's a nice one-stop drop as
Yeah,
far
I
as
do a lot there.
everything.
Yeah, that is nice.
I do a lot there because I love Julian Center for sure.
Mhm.
Okie dokie. I just always like to give more options of places, but this particular client specifically requested it to go there. So it's funny. I want this to go there. I want this to go there. I want this to go there.
that's why I say you do one drop. Like that's great.
Yeah.
I'll mark
And I
them
was
for
like,
you so you can
"Same,
take
but you're
them.
gonna take it
I'll
from
make
the
one
drop
run
over."
for you.
That's what we do. We do one
Yeah.
play.
And then they can decide, okay, great. I just want it all to go to one place. Or I'll say, I'll tag the bags for you. Which bag do you want me to take where? And you can take the rest of them. I mean, unless you charge per run, like charge
I
per
charge my
drop.
time. I charge my time if they're having me do it and they're paying
Yeah.
for it.
That's good then.
Yeah,
All right, girls, I'm
actually will-
out.
Yeah,
Yep.
thank
Same
you.
with us.
You guys should still be good. I mean, you guys
Bye,
can stay
everyone.
on,
No,
but
I got stuff to do.
We got.
I
we
got
gotta
2
work.
gals over here ready to learn some stuff.
Have a good
So
week.
Good
Oh,
luck.
yeah.
You and
Bye.
Travis.
Bye.
Bye.
See you next month.
bye, ladies.